Clash Royale is a game that looks simple on the surface, but the deeper you get into it, the more small mistakes can completely change the outcome of a match. A lot of players lose games not because their deck is bad, but because they're doing a few small things wrong without even realizing it. So here are 16 things in Clash Royale that you're probably doing wrong. The first mistake is overcommitting on defense when you're already winning. If you're up a tower or have a big damage lead, you don't need to defend every single push perfectly. A lot of players panic and drop way too much elixir on defense instead of letting a little damage through and maintaining pressure. Sometimes taking a few hundred tower damage is completely fine if it means you stay up in elixir and control the pace of the match. The next mistake is playing your win condition into obvious counters. If you just saw your opponent play their building, mini P.E.K.K.A, or tornado, that's information you should be using. A lot of players just mindlessly send in something like a Hog Rider, Royal Hogs, or Balloon, even though the counter they hate the most is clearly available. Waiting just a few seconds or forcing that counter out first can make the difference between no damage and taking an entire tower. Have you ever felt stuck in Clash Royale or any other video game, whether that's not climbing as fast as you want, struggling with decision making, or just not having the time to grind? Well, today's video sponsor, SkyCoach, is designed to help with all of those hangups and so much more. SkyCoach is a platform where pro players can help you to level up your game. It's trusted by over 150,000 gamers worldwide, offering access to experienced high-ranked players across 25 plus popular games. Instead of guessing what you're doing wrong or watching endless guides, you can actually work one-on-one with someone who understands the game at a high level and can point out the mistakes holding you back. What really stood out to me is how simple the process truly is. You choose your game, pick the type of help you're looking for, and you're matched with a pro through a clean, easy-to-use system. Communication is straightforward, everything is handled securely, and SkyCoach even offers instant refunds if an order isn't completed, which is honestly super reassuring. One thing I also appreciate is that SkyCoach isn't just for top-tier or competitive players. Whether you're brand new, getting back into the game after a break, or trying to push past a plateau you've been stuck at for a while, the platform is built so you get help that actually matches your skill level and goals. This isn't about taking shortcuts or anything, it's about learning faster, working smarter to improve, and making the most of the time you already spend gaming. If you want to check it out, head over to skycoach.gg where you can browse the available games, see what coaching options are offered, and if you decide to try it, you can use my code BrainDead for 10% off. I'll have both the link and exclusive discount code in the description and pinned comment of this video. Again, huge thanks to SkyCoach for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check them out, and let's jump back into the tips. Another big mistake is stacking support troops directly behind your tower. Placing troops like the Musketeer, Wizard, or Executioner right behind your Princess Tower makes it extremely easy for your opponent to get spell value. Instead, you should offset these troops slightly or place them in the back corners to avoid giving your opponent such an easy time getting a lot of value. And on the flip side, when your opponent does this, make sure to punish them for a good trade that will help you get ahead. Next up is not protecting your ranged troops properly. A lot of players drop a Musketeer or Archer and expect it to survive on its own, but cards like the Miner, Royal Delivery, or Fireball are everywhere and can easily take them out. You should be ready to protect key ranged troops with Skeletons, an Ice Spirit, or a Knight if needed, especially if they're critical to your defense. Another mistake is cycling spells for no real reason. Sometimes in Clash Royale, you have to just burn a card to get to the card you really need, but using the log, zap, or arrows to just do something often leaves you vulnerable when you actually need them. If your opponent knows your small spell is out of cycle, they can immediately punish you with a Goblin Barrel, Wall Breakers, or Swarm cards, putting you at a huge disadvantage. So instead, I'd recommend getting creative by using less optimal cards to defend and figuring out how to prevent as much damage as possible. Then, even if you take a bit of damage, you'll probably be in a better spot to set up a push soon after. One mistake I've seen a lot recently with the addition of heroes is forcing them into your deck just to use up the slots. Right now, there are limited hero options in the game, and it can be tempting to make a really random deck with no synergy just to fit in the new hero card, but oftentimes a deck with more synergy can get you more wins even if you aren't utilizing all your hero slots. And if you really want to use the new hero, just use them in a deck where either that card already shines or where their special ability synergizes really well with the other cards. The next mistake I see players make all the time recently is using their Hero Knight's ability when he's at very low health. His ability does give him a small shield while causing everything to target him, but if he's already at a true sliver of health, he'll die quickly anyway and won't get much value. Instead, try using his ability when he's at about 30% health or more to ensure he doesn't just go down in 2 seconds. Next is using spells reactively instead of predictively. Reactive spells are fine, they have a place in the game and most of the time they'll get the job done, but predictive spells are what wins you games. Predicting a Goblin Barrel, Skeleton Army, or defensive troop placement can give you massive elixir advantages and swing momentum in your favor, especially at higher levels of play. So pay attention to your opponent's cycle and how they counter your pushes. Then, after the first minute or two of the match, you should be able to make a solid prediction or two and take a tower without too much trouble. Another mistake is letting your opponent control the pace of the match. If you're constantly reacting instead of forcing responses, you're letting your opponent dictate the game, even if you get a bit of chip damage on them here and there and think you bested them. Even defensive decks need moments of pressure. A simple counter push or opposite lane play can stop your opponent from building unstoppable unstoppable pushes by forcing them to spread their resources too thin. Take control by defending smartly and then going all in when you know they don't have a good counter in hand. Next up is not adjusting your playstyle in overtime. A lot of players play the exact same way in single elixir as they do in overtime, which is a huge mistake. In fact, some decks are literally built to just survive the first 2 minutes of the match and then overwhelm you in double and triple elixir. Overtime favors faster cycles, more aggressive pressure, and smarter spell usage, so if you don't adapt, you'll slowly fall behind even in a close match. The next mistake is switching decks all the time. I swear some players just switch up their deck every time they lose a game or see a new deck that is trending on Reddit or something. This is already a bad idea since you won't be getting much better with any one deck and your overall skill will remain pretty low, but it's even worse if you don't have all your cards maxed out. This is because sticking to one deck allows you to upgrade that deck over time as you climb ladder and improve at the deck, then you can use those rewards to upgrade and learn another deck or two and work on upgrading those cards. Next is ignoring tower health thresholds. Knowing when a tower is within spell cycle range is crucial. If your opponent's tower is within fireball range, for example, it doesn't make sense to do much defending or try to build a push when you can just end the game instantly. This seems obvious, but I've seen people have, for example, arrows and a log in hand, which would be enough to win the game, but instead they'll instinctively just defend my push for some reason and let me clutch out a win. Also, pro tip, if you hold your finger on any card, including spells, it'll show you their damage, which can be super helpful across different game modes where your card levels may or may not be capped. Another mistake is using your champion or hero ability at the wrong time. These abilities are strongest when they change interactions, not when they're just used anytime your opponent places anything to defend the champion or hero. Waiting just half a second longer with abilities like the Golden Knight Dash or Skeleton King ability can completely flip a fight in your favor instead of being wasted. While we're on the subject of abilities, another huge mistake is using the ability every time you play the champion or hero. These abilities were meant to be strategic additions to the game that can be used when you stand to get a lot of value, but there is a reason they don't go off automatically. That's because sometimes there won't be a good opportunity to use the ability and you'll just want to let the champion play out on its own. Having the restraint to avoid spamming the ability button anytime you can is what separates amateur players from great ones. One of the biggest mistakes players make is focusing only on the current interaction instead of what their next few cards will be. Every card you play pushes you closer to a new hand, and if you don't plan ahead, you can easily end up with your win condition or key defensive card out of cycle at the worst possible time. Good players will intentionally hold or cycle specific cards so that when their opponent attacks, they already know what they're going to have in hand and what they won't. If you ever feel like you never have the right card when you need it, chances are you're cycling without a plan. And finally, the last mistake is tilting after one bad interaction. One missed spell or bad placement doesn't lose the game, but panicking afterward often can. Staying calm, slowing the game down, and resetting mentally is one of the most underrated skills in Clash Royale and will win you more games than almost any mechanical trick. Don't let your opponent get in your head with emotes and other toxic habits, and you just might clutch out that win. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my weekly uploads. And if you want to see 13 more tips just like this, click this video.